The 90 days of January are done and children are going back to school. Parents, as well as you students, I hope you're ready for the new school year. My name is Wadulo Mark Arnold and welcome to this episode of Business Roundup. In our first story, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda has launched the National Oil and Gas Talent Register. The register aims at boosting local participation in the oil and gas sector.
The development of a national oil and gas talent register is a specific initiative, and that is promoting the employment of Ugandan citizens. It comes at a time when the country is gearing up for the multi-billion-dollar production phase of oil and gas.
When the construction or the development phase of the sector begins, we expect at least $20 billion to be invested in very large infrastructure. This large infrastructure includes developing the oil fields, Tilenga and Kingfisher. It includes construction of the refinery, and it includes construction of the pipeline. You will appreciate that the construction of these facilities is going to require a lot of employees with a lot of different skills. That's why we say that the launch of this talent register at this time, as we go towards commencement of this construction, is really timely, because we are hoping and we expect that the people who will be looking for labor for these construction and development efforts will now find this platform ready.
In addition to being a legal requirement, the talent register is expected to contribute to the following objectives: capturing information of the available talent in the oil and gas sector, providing information on employment opportunities. It eases the recruitment process, provides trends, stock data on development and utilization of talent in the industry. It facilitates cross-movement of talent across the sectors, and last but not least, it facilitates capacity building. It is the first year of the registration of both the demand and supply of the labor force in Uganda's oil and gas sector. The total manpower requirements for the sector are estimated to be 160,000 people. This includes casual laborers, technical and professionals.
You may train people, but you need to make the effort to promote their employment. So this is the second aspect of growing the participation of Ugandans. The third aspect of growing the participation of Ugandans in the oil and gas sector is develop the competitiveness of Ugandan enterprises as suppliers and joint venture partners. I hope you are getting the difference here. One is employment of people. Two is developing the competitiveness of Ugandan enterprises. That's the third aspect of growing the participation of Ugandans. The fourth aspect of growing the participations of Ugandans in the oil and gas industry is to increase the use of locally produced or available goods and services by the oil and gas industry. We would like the oil and gas industry to use as much locally produced and available goods and services in the country as possible. So that's the fourth aspect. Of course, the fifth aspect is the promotion of in-country research and development and technology transfer to Ugandans.
However, there is a disclaimer that whoever registers on the talent register database and submits their profile are not guaranteed of being offered jobs.
But how does it work? The registration system can be used by both the demand and supply side users. The demand side users consist of companies and government agencies which meet the eligibility criteria seeking to recruit human resource to support projects in the oil and gas sector and redeployment of the same to other sectors. On the other hand, the supply side users include individuals who meet the eligibility criteria of the workforce demands of the oil and gas sector and are likely to be recruited by the demand side users. Dennis Ikoa for UBC Business.
Africa is still grappling with wildlife crime. Early this week, 2 Vietnamese ivory smugglers were arrested while transporting 3 containers of elephant tusks and pangolin scales at Elegu border post in northern Uganda. These containers were disguised to be transporting logs of wood purportedly for export to Vietnam. 2 Vietnamese nationals have been arrested and will soon face the long arm of the law for wildlife crime. According to the Uganda Revenue Authority, the Vietnamese nationals were arrested at the Uganda border of Elegu with their consignment concealed under tree trunks purported for export.
We've been able to scan them and establish that in one consignment it was not teak logs, but it was ivory that was concealed inside, like you have seen inside.
The 750 pieces of ivory translates to about 300 elephants killed by the poachers. According to Dixon Kateshumbo, the Commissioner for Customs at the URA, the interception paints a green picture for the challenge of wildlife conservation in the African continent.
The previous interceptions we have got of ivory, they were not concealed in this kind of way. They were in grains, in coffee husks, you know. But this is an industrial process.
Uganda has over the years managed to combat wildlife crime. However, the country is ranked among the leading transit countries globally due to its porous borders. URA, in collaboration with the security and conservation agencies, are investigating and trying to unearth the origin of the wildlife products so as to destroy the syndicate involved in the crime. Amidst other environmental challenges that Africa faces, Africa is still grappling with wildlife conservation. But with stricter border policies, this challenge is soon going to be curbed. Reporting for UBC, Wadulo Makanold. The Ministry of Works and Transport has kick-started the process of registering all boats and vessels plying the routes on the inland waters in the country. Samuel Senono reports.
The capsizing of MV Templar late last year on Lake Victoria that left over 30 dead lent credence to the idea of creating new regulations to guide the water transport industry. Today, the Ministry of Works and Transport has rolled out an exercise aimed at registering all boats and vessels, starting with those plying the waters of Lake Victoria. The enumerators take note of the boat make, its engine, and details of boat stewards, among others. Officials from the Ministry of Works and Transport say this exercise is aimed at ensuring safety.
The boat census is to know how many boats operate at a particular landing sites, what type of activities they are involved in. Is it fishing or transportation? Do they have life-saving appliances on their boats? Because as an administration, we have the objective of seeing that transport is safe on the waters.
Joining the ministry in this endeavor is the Central Corridor, a transit and transport facilitation agency.
We have been witnessing a lot of accidents and incidents on this lake. And with such a situation, you cannot expect trade to improve. We are now talking of how can we increase intra-regional trade, international trade. So we discussed with the government and through the Ministry of Works, and we thought that it was very urgent to contribute in addressing the safety constraints. We are looking at covering around 50 landing sites. It's not enough, it's not exhaustive, but we wanted just to start. This is phase 1, after which we discuss again with stakeholders, government and other partners interested to see how we can cover the entire space.
The fishermen, on the other hand, welcomed this move by government, but called for more support. Once complete, it's believed that the information gathered in this exercise will go a long way guiding decision makers on issues in the water transport sector. Samuel Senono, UBC News.
Standard Chartered Bank customers in Uganda are now able to access all their banking services on their smartphones. The bank's new innovation seeks to bring the banking services closer to its clients and in turn enhance the customer's experience.
The digital banking solution core purpose is to reduce the physical contact between the bank and its clients. Uganda becomes the second country in the African continent after Ivory Coast, where the service is now available on smartphones.
As you know, Africa has the youngest population around the world, with more than 60% of our population under the age of 20. And if you recall from the statistic Albert talked about, 15 to 20 are the masters of the mobile device. So we want to make sure that, you know, as we grow with these fellas, and we can go a long way in terms of providing for their banking needs.
Albert Solston, the CEO, Stanchot, is convinced that the digital banking service has the capacity to revolutionize the banking industry, with clients shifting to digital options to do their banking. Innovations powered by new technologies are becoming more relevant.
The bank is now available literally at the palm of their hands, anywhere, anytime. You will agree with me that with advances in technology, the relationship that customers have with their banks and with their finances has changed drastically over the years. Clients now rely less and less on walking into brick and mortar branches and instead are shifting to digital options.
The banking innovation has been lauded by government for making banking a hassle-free experience.
The customer tastes and preferences must be met by anytime, anywhere functionality. Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere.
So digital contact is not only about efficiency, it's about leveling the playing field.
Meanwhile, Anne Kansime, a popular comedian, has been selected to be an influencer and ambassador of the digital banking solution.
And Anne will, over the next 12 months, lend her voice and image rights to the bank through a series of marketing and community engagement activities.
I'm so excited. I'm delighted for that opportunity, for the responsibility, for the chance to associate with a big dog like Standard Chartered Bank.
In Uganda, close to 70% of bank transactions are currently being conducted on new technology platforms, compared to just 7% conducted at the bank's branches and 21% through the banking agents. Dennis Igoa for UBC Business.
Ugandan coffee has competed on the global market for almost 4 decades now and has come to be the most lucrative export crop in the country. The quality of Ugandan coffee has the ability to dictate regional and global market prices. We'll take a look at how in this story. Uganda produces 2 types of coffee, but Robusta coffee scores 85 points on the global scale of 100. This score is attributed to the farming practices emphasized by the Uganda Coffee Development Authority.
We are putting a lot of emphasis on harvesting practices, such that people do selectively harvest coffee selectively, and pick only ripe coffees. On top of that, we have been trying to ensure that all the coffee that is picked is dried through best practices. That is not on the ground and also not speeding the process.
On the global scale, Ethiopian coffee scores 88 points, Kenya and Rwanda score 86 points, while Uganda has prevailed at 85 for the recent years. Before export, all harvested and dried coffee is tested at the Uganda Coffee Development Authority laboratories at Lugogo.
So this right you see behind you is a cupping. And a cupping is somehow important because it establishes not just the quality of a coffee, but the value of that coffee. And it is how your coffee is sold. So as a salesman, my job is to get coffees to the tables, to the cupping tables of different roasters and buyers around the US. But once it's there, if it gets chosen, it's not because of me. It's because of the quality alone.
Coffee farming has the potential to increase more than just agricultural revenue in the country.
You also have so many tourists and people who come to Uganda for reasons other than coffee. But they get to meet people here, they form connections, they come home, and they tell the story of the people they met. It's for this reason on the UCDA tours. When we go west, we go to see the gorillas. When we go east, we make sure to stop at where? Mississippi Falls and Jinja, so that when they come home, they can talk about more than just coffee. They can talk about their entire experience.
Did you know that Uganda is the birthplace of Robusta coffee in the whole of Africa? However, experts say that coffee farming must be taken seriously as a business if Uganda is to achieve its target of exporting 20 million bags by the year 2025. Reporting for UBC Business, Wadulo Mark Arnold. In our corporate wrap, new players in Uganda's insurance sector will be required to have both working capital as well as minimum capital requirements. In another development, Uganda Breweries Limited has announced its 6 qualified candidates of UBL's 2019 graduate trainee program.
After enactment of the Insurance Act 2017, the Insurance Regulatory Authority Uganda has started the journey towards supervising insurance players using risk-based sensitive basis.
RBS means moving away from the traditionally known compliance-based supervision. And in this regime, insurance companies are encouraged to develop and continuously update their internal risk management practices, which indeed is key in ensuring policyholders' protection.
The regulation, which will take effect from February this year, is a forward-looking process designed to identify, assess, measure and monitor the key risk factors affecting the insurance sector. Despite its growth, the insurance sector in Uganda still grapples from shortage of actuaries and fixed rates due to stiff requirements.
Actuaries are the people who must study the data which is available and advise on an appropriate rate. It shouldn't be that the rate is fixed from January to December, no. And as you have already heard, it shouldn't be that what company Y charges should be the same with what company X charges.
Ivan Kalimeri, the actuarial officer IRA, says there is room for improvement.
We have students from the university who have this bachelor's degree. Recruit them, but also train them through the professional exams. So we are not saying fully qualified. All we are saying is that have trained them over maybe a 3-year period, and then they have some exams. Then as we move along, then we'll try to improve on the requirements. But at least there's a starting point that we want.
Although Uganda's insurance industry penetration has for a decade failed to hit the 1% mark, sector players are optimistic of improvement in the advent of multi-billion-dollar investments, mainly in the oil and gas industry and infrastructure development. Charlotte Amuge, UBC Business.
The graduate trainee program is aimed at molding fresh, talented graduates and equipping them with the necessary skills needed to flourish in the complex job market. For 10 years, Uganda Breweries Limited has contributed towards developing graduates' knowledge base and giving them hands-on field practice.
It's a very rigorous program. They do an online assessment first when they apply, and then after the online assessment, they'll answer a case study on, sort of recorded, and you're told, okay, imagine you're the MD of this company or you're the marketing director and sales need to grow in this brand and etc. So they do that. And then we bring them in for an assessment center. And then after the assessment center, so you see we're gradually sort of reducing the numbers. After the assessment center, they then come for interviews.
6 graduates out of over 2,000 applicants will be taken on in different departments of the company, such as sales, marketing, human resource and finance.
Coming in here young with very little to no work experience, I want to be molded and to shape into a great marketer and to continue what my predecessors have done in the past, which is to tell great stories of great brands.
The thing that I want to do the most is work with people, shape people, and just inspire people to grow and really be the best that they can be. So I believe that this was a perfect opportunity for me to just come here and just learn.
Often, the tertiary institutions in Uganda have been blamed for sending out half-baked graduates to the job market.
So it's about creating leaders for Diageo in the future, but they start now. We start with them when they leave school.
Graduate trainee programs has over the years become an important instrument in attracting talented young people to the employment world and are commonly popular with banks and insurance companies. Dennis Igoa and Charlotte Amuge for UBC Business.
On the international scene, World Bank President Jim Yong Kim has officially left office 3.5 years before the end of his term. His resignation has kicked off a scramble to select the new leader for the institution.
He's a president who wants to invest in fossil fuels.
We're going to put the miners back to work. We're going to put the miners back to work.
The just departed president of the World Bank, not so much.
We're announcing that the World Bank Group will no longer finance upstream oil and gas after 2019.
Jim Yong Kim doubled investment to help developing countries, the bank's main beneficiaries, deal with climate change. But Trump pulled the US out of the international treaty on it. And Kim, appointed by Trump's predecessor Barack Obama, has unexpectedly quit 3 years before his term was due to end. He'll be joining a private equity firm. It's an opportunity for Trump. Under an informal agreement, the World Bank president has traditionally been chosen by the US. According to Bloomberg, Trump is considering US Treasury official David Malpass, currently part of the team negotiating with China over trade tensions. Owen Fairclough, CGTN.
ICT is continuously evolving. I mean, there's nothing that evolves faster than technology. I mean, you know that. A phone that was cool last year is no longer cool this year. You have something even better, bigger, faster, can do a lot more interesting things. So we are coming up with different platforms. For example, we're doing something in IoT, Internet of Business, Internet of Things, and we have something called the Mezzanine Facility. Now, this is to do with improving the health and education, health, education, and agriculture in the country through working with some of the NGOs, our partners, you know, like the Johns Hopkins affiliate, JPIGO, and, you know, the Children AIDS Fund Uganda through the health aspect of our mezzanine facility. Now, we're doing this. This has been tried out in countries like South Africa and Kenya. But we're trying to bring some of these ideas, some of these platforms based on the ICT knowledge that we already have, to see if we can go out into the villages and try to improve the lives of ordinary Ugandans.
Bugala Island is one of the most scenic islands on Lake Victoria. It is popular for tourists, fishing, birding, as well as palm oil growing. Bugala is now gearing up for Valentine's Day. Enjoy our sounds of business at the Lovers Island. a popular saying, make hay when the sun is shining. As the schools are opening, we hope that you as a parent made hay when the sun was shining. My name is Wadulo Mark Arnold. Catch me on the next episode, same time, same place. From the team and I, it's goodbye.